at the end of the day, I ran an agency for 12 years and always wished there was a resource I could kind of tap on, or, a community I could be a part of. And so it is nice to see it on the other side, and really be able to see the things and really, I think so many agencies are so emotionally attached to their agency that it clouds their judgment on some of the things that they actually need to do in order to get to the next kind of level of, what I look at as like kind of climbing a mountain.
Welcome to Show Me the Nuggets, where each week Joe chats with world-class entrepreneurs to find out the key principles, strategies, and processes that lie behind their outstanding achievements. Now, your host, the no bullshit serial entrepreneur, Joe Troyer.
Hey everybody, it's Joe Troyer, and welcome to Show Me the Nuggets, yet another episode. Super excited today to have a legend, I would say, in the agency space on, Jason Swenk. In a conversation that I was having in the green room before one of the shows, one of our guests said, man, you just got to get Jason on the show. And I thought, man, that's a great idea. So for those of you guys that don't know, Jason has been around the agency world for a really, really long time. And we're going to be really talking about how to build a large agency and sell it for a profit. And if I'm not mistaken, Jason has a little bit of experience in that himself. So, man, Jason, without further ado, welcome to the show, brother.
Oh, thanks for having me on.
So super excited to chat with you about your experience building an agency yourself, scaling, exiting, and talking then about the common things that you're seeing in agencies today and in the market from a coaching perspective. And I think it's so cool when somebody sees both sides of the audience and the coin, so to speak.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I ran an agency for 12 years and always wished there was a resource I can kind of tap on, or a community I could be a part of. And so it is nice to see it on the other side, and really be able to see the things. And really, I think so many agencies are so emotionally attached to their agency that it clouds their judgment on some of the things that they actually need to do in order to get to the next kind of level of, what I look at as like kind of climbing a mountain.
So, tell me about business today before we go backwards. What do you currently spend your time doing? What are your investments, or what are your companies? What's today look like in Jason Swenk world?
Yeah, well, with the personal brand, it's all about helping agency owners scale faster by, really showing them the systems and the strategies that work for us, and that has been working for a lot of other, clients and members. And I do that by, showing them a framework, and I do that by helping them build a community of like-minded people like them that are sharing what's working with them. And then I also own another agency with a number of really smart people that we've been growing really quick over the past year and a half. And we're a little over 20 million in revenue. So I'm back into the agency world as owning, not just coaching.
That's awesome, man. So now let's go back. Let's tell the audience a little bit about your background, how you ended up in this crazy digital marketing space and agency world. That would be an awesome place to start.
Yeah, I mean, it was all by accident. I graduated from Florida State, so hopefully you're not a Miami fan since you're in South Florida. I might have to end the interview a little short. But I graduated from there, and I worked with a company called Arthur Andersen at the time as a computer programmer. But I hated it. I really was not designed to work for anybody. I've been fired from almost every job I've ever had. And at the time, and this was 99, I created a website making fun of one of my friends that looked like Justin Timberlake. And that was when NSYNC was really popular, which I think was from Florida as well, if I can remember right. And I called a fake band, fake website called In Shit, and it got popular. And then people started asking me to design websites. And so that's how I kind of got my journey of, being a creative agency and designing websites for, Hitachi and Lotus Cars, and LegalZoom, and really building those sites and those brands. And then 12 years went by like that, and I had a bunch of people wanting to buy it, and we sold it. And then I didn't know what I wanted to do after that. And then I kind of fell into this role by accident again. So I guess I just need to I I read really well when I see this writing on the wall of going, hey, go this way.
That's awesome, man. I'm curious, like, I feel like most of the agency coaches and agencies out there, most of the marketplace, so to speak, um, isn't in the corporate world, right? And you as a coach, I'm curious, um, what's your take on that statement, I guess? Is that right? Is that wrong? Is it just not marketed as much? Is that why you don't
Well,
see it? I'm curious your
well,
thoughts.
I really don't really kind of look at anything else, so I can't really comment on that. I don't even know what other people are helping out agencies because I don't want to know, because what I learned when I was building the agency and working with so many clients, a lot of times they would say, hey, what websites, here's a website I really like. And then just subconsciously you would see that, and then you started seeing the whole market look the same.
Yep.
So I've always kind of blacked out what other people are doing. I'll see some things on Facebook and kind of laugh at what people claim and that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I really don't look. I don't care. I just kind of do what I do.
So in the coaching side of things, do you see that most of your customers and clients are doing big stuff like you are, more corporate type of stuff, or
All
more
across the board.
focused, or
Yeah. I
all
mean,
over?
it's all across the board. Um, I find a lot of people niching down, and I've always talked more about that, kind of like your past guest, Chris Dwyer with
Yep.
rankings, right? Like you can't really get more niche down than, personal injury attorneys doing over X, and we just do SEO, right? So, he does a fantastic job at that. I and he really understands that market, and that's why he's been able to really excel and grow rather than just say, I'm just going to go after the corporate world, right? It's a little more of a challenge, even though I think when agency owners start, they go, I want to work with the biggest brands in the world.
Yeah.
And I think it's a lot harder to nowadays in order to get to that level. When I started, digital marketing was just really starting. That's when kind of really people wanted websites, versus now it's it's a lot harder.
Yeah, man. That's really interesting. So in your agency, in your first agency, you're obviously working with very, very large corporations, kind of the who's who. You kind of went viral, so to speak, and people started seeking you out because of this website, which is really cool. What did the average job or contract, what were you doing for people? What was the relationship like? Tell me a little bit more about what you did for the customers, deal terms, length, etc.
Well, when we started working with the bigger clients, that was only to the last 5 years.
Okay.
Before then, it was, my first client was a realtor, and then I think a marina, and then like a hair salon. It was just like all randomness. And we were able to grow to around 1 million when we were doing that. And then when we really started getting laser focus, and this was kind of by accident, I think a lot of people look at lasering down based on their past clients rather than kind of lasering down of what they're really good at. We really kind of lasered down on what we were really good at around our creative and certain technologies that we had. So we were one of the first to develop a content management system, an email marketing system, an e-commerce system. We kept getting bogged down with so much clients coming to us that we couldn't even realize that we needed to develop this as a SaaS product. We used to install all this stuff, on the server side for people. So we missed a really big opportunity that way. So a lot of people want to work with the biggest brands, but honestly, they're the biggest pain in the asses to work with. Honestly, when I look back, I go, the $1 billion brands that you've never heard of are the ones that were our sweet spot, because you could set your own terms. Like when you work with a Coca-Cola, you can't even say you work with Coca-Cola. We would have to say we work with a large beverage company with a red logo in Atlanta.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Okay. I wanna transition to the new agency, because like you blew my mind when you said how much revenue you've done and how fast you've done it. I guess before though, I think I'd be remiss, and the listeners would probably kick my butt and say, Joe, why didn't you ask Jason this? I'm curious, like when you sold the business, when you sold your agency originally, who was the buyer? What did they, not like who were they? Like but what did they do? Why did they see value in your company? What did they want it for? What would somebody find interesting about the exit of your agency?
Yeah, it's a great question because what they told me was totally different than what the real reason was. So at the end of the day, the real reason was they wanted to buy us for revenue so they could add more revenue and more EBITDA or net profit to their bottom line so then they could sell again. Right. So when I sold the agency, we later on sold 9 months later, which was really good for me because then I could exit rather than staying on for 2 years,
Gotcha.
which I wasn't doing well working for someone.
Yeah, that was a blessing for sure.
Yeah, but I originally thought they bought us because of our social CRM and a lot of our methodology around that. But that wasn't the case. So, learning and looking back at it, like if you can really start figuring out what's the real reason someone's actually wanting to buy you, then you have a little bit more leverage. Now we had multiple people that wanted to buy us, so we did really well. And one of the lessons I learned is make sure, and this is what we do in the new agency as well, of give someone as much cash up front, because if you tie it to an earnout or something else, you really just don't control it anymore, later on. So yeah, it was a wild ride. And the other thing that I learned, and I want everybody to take this away, of whatever questions the buyer asks you, always ask that back. And then always make sure, like, do they have the same culture that you have? Because I never wanted to put my team that actually got us to that point in jeopardy. Like if their culture was really corporate and ours was not, right? Like we were riding like literally motorized scooters, like like smoking the office, in our office and just having a lot of fun. But if it was like a really corporate place buying us, it would have been a complete disaster.
Yeah, for sure. The culture fit is important. I'm assuming that you had a pretty big team at that point too. I mean, and when you got a big team that you're trying to take care of, I mean, that becomes really important. And typically I find kills a lot of the deals, is the founders trying to take care of the team, and the new buyer doesn't really care, or lies and says that they care, and then their actions speak louder than their words.
Yeah. And actually a lot of times when I go in to talk to an agency about buying them now, sometimes I actually do a really bad job because I talk them out of it. And I'm like, look, because when we go in to buy an agency, we're only buying an agency that's over $1 million in EBITDA, net profit, not top line revenue. Everybody always focused on top line revenue. It's just complete crap. And even me saying 20 million, that's complete crap, right? Like 6 million is the net profit. That's really what you're wanting to concentrate. So I was complete crap. I was a hypocrite for saying that. But a lot of times I talk people out of it. I'm like, well, why do you want to sell? And they're like, well, the life-changing number. I'm like, yeah, but you can get to that life-changing number in probably 6 years by, just you're taking $1 million a year out. Like, why do you want to do that? And you're not in the business anymore, right? Like that's what makes it really interesting to buyers, is it's very profitable. The owner is not in the day-to-day, right? All they're concentrate on is the who do I need to hire? Who do I need to bring in, rather than how and what? And so when I see that in an agency, I'm like, ooh, that's really good. They must have some good systems and strategies in place. They're really profitable. So if they bolt on to us, it's going to really work well.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. All right, so let's transition then to the new agency. That was the perfect bridge. What do you guys do? Who do you guys serve? Tell us a little bit more.
Well, again, we kind of break the golden rule of when I tell people, I'm like, we're a full service digital agency, because a lot of times when people say that, they're really full of shit. But we've bought 8 agencies in the past year and a half. That's how we've grown. So we started with a company or a small agency, a little bit over $1 million, called Irrational. Thomas was the CEO of that, and just we all had this idea of let's kind of go out, let's find some funding, let's invest in it, let's build a kind of like a super agency and put all these agencies together that serve the small business market. Now, if people wanted to model exactly what we're doing at this time it would be a mistake of going, I'm full service, I'm just going after small business. So I want to do a disclaimer
Yeah.
on that. If you model kind of how we've got there, that's what I always tell people, because a lot of smaller agencies or medium-sized agencies listening in will go, oh, I could say I'm a full service and we do everything, we go after small business. You're going to fail, or it's going to be a little bit more challenging. You're going to hit a cap. It's like Facebook. When Facebook came out, think about, they said Harvard, Ivy League, other colleges, high schools, and they layered, right? So if you modeled that, then you can get to the next level. So I just disclaimer, because I don't want people to, I want people to succeed and get there faster. So what we do is we come in and we look for agencies that are over $1 million in EBITDA. We'll give them a valuation of like 4 to 5x, pay them 50% cash and other 50% in equity in the new entity, because the whole goal is to grow it to over $1 billion or to go public. And so that could be really even more of a life-changing number. But then also too, on the front side, it's kind of taking a lot of chips off the table as well for those people that want to do that. And like I said, sometimes I'm the worst salesman. I'm like, dude, just keep it. Like, you're in total control rather than having someone else tell you what to do.
So you're really buying the companies for, I guess, two strategies, right? One is kind of the roll-up strategy, and two, right? So you're getting bigger all the time. You're gaining more customers into this machine, but then also I would say bolt-on, right? Because you're adding their products and services. So is that how you're looking at the businesses? Are those the two kind of big things for you? The big drivers is how many customers do you have? What's the stickiness? How long are they staying? And then do you have a product and service that we can add so that long-term we become full service?
Exactly. Yeah. Right. So like we're just molding it where most agencies only get 20 cents on the dollar for all of your clients' budget, right? You get 20% of it. We're trying to get most of it. All right. We're not going to get all of it, but like, what if we come in and be like, we can do all this because we have the right expertise from all these different, what we call kind of citizens of all around. Now, the challenge with, doing a strategy like this is, kind of integration of all the agencies together as well, of making sure that they all believe in the same thing, that, we share knowledge, we share everything. And, you just can't go, I'm going to buy this, now we're worth this. It's going to take, years and years to do. It's a challenging strategy, so, but it's a lot of fun. And when they asked me to kind of participate in this craziness, I was like, sure, I've never done it this way. I've never built a agency that big. So let's go ahead and try it.
It's an awesome adventure. It sounds like you must have one hell of an operations manager, CEO, something in there. You got some really, really good team members to accomplish what you guys have accomplished.
Well, we got really, really good partners and leaders on the team. I'm just a small part of it. They're the ones that do all the work. They're the smart ones. I'm just like, thanks for letting me tag along.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome, man. That sounds really, really interesting. What's kind of your role? Where do you spend your time in the new business, so to speak, in the new agency? What's your contribution there?
Really advising them on the top line, and then finding the right agencies to bring in
Gotcha.
is my main role, right? Like at the end of the day, even if that company blew up, my North Star is just being a resource I wish I had when I was running an agency. And that's why, we do everything, at jasonswenk.com and with our podcast and our videos. And because, we're always at different levels, and I'm a big mountain person. I always think that, there's kind of 6 different levels of actually making it to the top of the mountain or the summit.
Okay.
And so my whole goal is like, how many agencies can we get to the summit or to their summit, whatever it is, because some agencies don't want to grow to 100 million or 20 million or whatever number. It's different for everybody.
That's awesome. Can you talk us through high level what some of those steps are?
Yeah, sure. So at first, the first one is really kind of the staging, right? This is kind of when you're starting to think about, starting the agency, right? Like you're kind of starting to survey around of going like, who do I actually need to, go after? How do I gain that clarity, right? How do I decide on my niche that I'm going to go after, my core offer? And really at this level, you really need to focus on lead generation and sales, but you're kind of spraying and praying, right? Right. So that's kind of why you're at the staging. And then the next level up is what I call base camp. And a lot of times when you'll know when you're at base camp, you're kind of always thinking about like, what do I need to focus on? And what you need to focus on is really kind of automating your lead generation and starting to close more sales at a higher rate. And in order to kind of graduate, you really have to really start kind of generating leads on a consistent basis and closing them consistently.
Yep.
And then the next level up, you start getting into a steeper terrain, right? And I call this the climb. And this is where a lot of agencies are. And you'll know when you're there because you'll be like, how do I get further ahead? But it just seems kind of bumpy. And a lot of times when the terrain gets tough, a lot of times they're like, man, why can't it just go back to, like the fun stage? And some people go down to base camp. And this is really when you're at base camp, it's really kind of you and some contractors, right? And but everything's tied to you. But on the climb, you have multiple team members. You may have, one manager in there, maybe a project manager, that kind of stuff. And in order to kind of graduate from that, you need to think about, because you're doing all of sales, the owner is doing all of sales. How can I bring on a salesperson that can take over my sales part? Because in the base camp, you're all focused around marketing. In the climb, you should be all focused in sales. How can I convert that? And then the next level up is called the crux. This is kind of where you're trying to figure out what's your footing. And rather than focused on how do I get further ahead, it's like, how does my team get me further ahead? Yep. Because you start adding, an operations person in there, maybe some directors. And it's all about, when you get to the crux, it's about how can I build the right team in order to start really focusing on other things. So if you go back to base camp, remember, it's around a marketing system. The climb is a sales system. Now the crux, we're really focused on an operations system, right? In order to make sure everybody's in there. And then in order to graduate there, it's really about how do I lead the team to take over the stuff that I used to do in the business?
Yep.
Right. So now it's like, you figure out the what, you figure out the how. I'll just tell you where I want to go. And you guys go figure it out. Any questions so far before I go to the last two?
Makes perfect sense.
Okay, cool. And then the next layer up is the crest, right? So if you're looking at a mountain, like you start seeing some peaks, but you're not at the summit, but there's some like really jagged. And really what you're focused on now is how does my team get ahead? So remember, at the crux, we're talking about like, how does my team get me ahead? Now it's like, how does my team get themselves ahead, right? And at the crest, we're really becoming leaders, to the team. And it's all about, like, our biggest challenge is finding the right talent. So like in our mastermind for the top, for the people in the crest, the biggest thing we're focused on is building a recruiting system to find all this talent, because we have the marketing dialed in, we have the sales dialed in, and we have the operations dialed in, but now we need more people. So it's all about recruiting. So when you can actually onboard your leadership team, now for marketing, for sales, for operations, you get those three. Now you can kind of graduate and get to the level of the summit. And then the summit, it's all about, how does my team get further ahead, rather than how does my team get me ahead? How does my team get further ahead? And it's all about growing leaders. It's about, scaling the leadership systems. And it's about really becoming the chairman and being able to kind of step away if you want and do other things, because your team has everything there. And so those are really the 6 stages.
Yep.
And so what I do a lot of times is I help self-identify where they're at. And I'm like, well, cool, you're at this stage. Well, this is what you need to focus on. If you're at the climb, hey, you need to focus on a sales system. If you're at the crest, we need to focus on an operation system. So,
That's awesome. It's really interesting. I feel like a lot of agencies that we work with, we do a lot of fulfillment for agencies, and one of my companies, Invisible PPC. So we see people that have made it up until like crux. We see a lot of people that die at that level, crux. And Die isn't the right word. They either regress or they move forward. They don't stay there. And they make that decision in their head. They either go, screw it, like you said, like, I don't want to deal with the team and I want to go back to more of a lifestyle business. I don't want as many team members. Screw the employees, no more office, all virtual, right? Or they make their way past the crux, right? And like you said, I think a great way to define it is they finally are able to, in their business, give their people the outcome that they're after and get the people to drive the outcomes. And so they move from creating these SOPs themselves and being very involved in the outcome to getting their people to drive the outcomes. And I think that transition is really hard for a lot of people.
It is. It is. I was talking to our mastermind members earlier this week, and they kind of made fun of me because I quoted, I guess, a famous author. What is it? Not Dan Kennedy. I don't know. This is not mine, I guess. I never heard of it because I don't read books. But they didn't want to give up what they're always doing. And I said, well, you trying to do 1,000 things at 100% is horrible. If you can get someone to 80%, then that's better than you trying to do all these little things. And they were like, well, that's that one book. I was like, I don't know who that is then. So that's one way. And like you said too, of like, you need to delegate outcomes rather than delegate tasks. And so when I find that you enter into, like, you're graduating from the crux into the crest, you're really becoming the CEO versus the owner. And you really have like 4 or 5 roles. The number one is setting the vision and communicating it to the team often. This is not just an exercise just to write it down and email your team or talk about it at like one meeting. I mean, it's like living and breathing this thing. And then the 2 is being the face of the organization. And a lot of people go, well, I don't want to be the face because then everybody's going to want to work with me. Sure, they're going to want to work with you, but you just don't make that possible. Perfect example is Gary Vaynerchuk with VaynerMedia. Do you really think you work with Gary? Hell no, you don't. Right. The next is coaching and mentoring your leadership team. Like we talked about that, right? You shouldn't be coaching in everybody, and you shouldn't have over 4 or 5 direct reports, or that's just suicide for you. And that's why a lot of people want to go the other way, because you hire the wrong people. And then the other ones are like really build relationships that really assist sales. Like you shouldn't be doing sales. If you're doing sales, that's kind of like you pulling up to a doctor's office and the doctor valeting your car, being the elevator guy, taking your temperature, and then he tells you what to do. You're like, really? Like, that just doesn't look right. And then the last is understand the financials. You don't have to be a whiz kid at spreadsheet, but you have to understand what are the KPIs that are important to tell me that we're doing well or we need to make a change.
I guess, what do you think are the things that get people to push past the crux and into the crest? Because I feel like, is there a difference in talent, right? You talked about talent in the crest, right? How do you manage that talent transition before you get to the crest? Or does that only happen at the crest? Because I feel like, your SOPs get you so far in getting that outcome, but as you start to really grow and you're pouring fire on the sales and the marketing, and we know marketing in this world changes, right? Like all the time. We're on the bleeding edge. Any thoughts there, I guess, on anybody that's watching or listening to the show, and they're like, man, like I'm in that transition right now. Like, what advice would you give them? I just know it's such a critical hinge point for so many of our listeners and our customers.
The biggest thing you have to realize is what you got you to that point won't get you to the next layer, right? So it's different tools, right? The climb is a lot more steeper and a lot more risk. of, dying, right? Same on a mountain. So you have to really make sure that you're taking calculated risks, that you have the right team members on the right place. You have to kind of reset your thinking, right? So like, you remember I talked about, in order to get to that point, you were doing a lot of work. You're in the business. You're worried about what and how we do it, which a lot of times slows you up. But if you can start figuring out how to delegate and really start focusing on the big items, like one of the big things that I go over with our mastermind a lot of times is audit your time, right? Really look at, like, are you doing tactical stuff? Are you doing strategic stuff? Are you doing low value things that you can, like, that's how you should start hiring, like at the lower levels of going, I need to hire to replace the little things that I do that are not, that someone else can do. Like, no one else can set the vision. No one else can, most of the time, like with what we do, can do the podcast or create the content. But why the hell are we doing video editing? Why are we editing the podcast? Why are we posting on social media when other people can actually do that? And so when you start doing that, and then you start going, and you realize too, some of your team members are not going to grow as fast as your organization. And a lot of times we try to hold on to them too long, which I get why we do that. But at the end of the day, we're at a for-profit business. And so we have to find a right seat for them. And if they don't have a seat when the music stops, well, they can take down the whole company. And so it's a hard decision, but it's necessary in most cases. And then also too, the last part is finding, like, if you're really good at sales and you suck at operations, right? Well, you should be bringing on like an operations director. Like I interviewed, I can't remember his name, but Gary Vaynerchuk's COO. And he goes, look, I don't need to bring ideas. That's Gary. Gary has all the ideas, right? I just need to go, here's an idea, and then I'm the how person. I'll figure it out, and I'll make it work, right? And so that's the type of person that I needed. And so you have to kind of self-assess, and then you can get to whatever level that you want. But don't think that, I think too many people think, I'm already stressed out, I'm maxed out at this level. If I add more people, it's more stress. Actually, it's the opposite. If you do it right.
Yeah, really good advice. I think also one thing that you said that I'll repeat is, like, it, when you're in that stage, you're focused on training your team and getting leverage through your team. You become, the coach, right? Instead of the all-star player, right? You're transitioning into coach. And I think that's a good analogy to help people understand that sticky situation, right? And that is definitely a major transition.
Oh, big time. Yeah. I mean, you're not managing clients anymore. You're managing your team.
Yep. It's a good way to put it. Yeah. This has been an awesome interview. I want to be super respectful of your time. I want to wrap it up. Jason, if people want to work with you, they want to follow you, they enjoyed today's episode, I want to make sure to link you up in the show notes. Let everybody know where to go.
Swank it.
I love it.
SWENK.IT. That will forward you to the true website, jasonswenk.com. But you can check out the thousands of videos or the thousands of podcasts that we have out there. So, and just check out, the free resources that we have.
I love the Swank It name. So today on the episode of Show Me Your Nuggets, Show Me the Nuggets, we dropped the link Swank It. So yeah, like all types of sexual innuendos in there. Gotta love it. Us sixth graders out here. Jason, man, this has been great. I want to wrap with one more question. Instead of recommending you or asking you to recommend 3 books, we do something a little bit different here on the podcast. I feel like that's really overused. I want to ask you, what's the one book that's made the biggest difference on the impact and the way that you do business, you run business, you see business, and why?
Can I say, like, maybe a video or a podcast?
Yeah, man. You said you don't really do books, so man, say whatever comes to mind.
I'll probably, I'd probably say Pat Flynn's podcast, Smart Passive Income. I hate the name, honestly, because and he'll even say there's no passive income out there. But he was one of the reasons why I created a podcast, which allowed me to reach so many people. So that has been pretty influential.
I'm curious, what it obviously led you to build a podcast. That's great. What do you find impactful about it?
I saw
from Pat's show.
Well, before
if it's not passive income, or why do you like it so well? Why did you model it? Right.
Well, I liked Pat's style. He was an internet marketer, and at that time when I was getting into this business, a lot of internet marketers were slimy and sleazy. He wasn't. He was like, hey, I'm going to put out everything I do. That was more impactful for me, I'm going to put out everything I do. I'm going to be totally transparent and honest with you and just show you how to do it. And I'm not going to ask for anything. If you want to give me money for something, okay, there you go. And that's kind of our mentality as well, with everything that we do. So I just related to it.
Super authentic, good, bad, indifferent. If he did something and it blew up in his face, he's the first to say, this blew up in my face, it didn't go well, versus trying to hide behind the veil. So completely get that. That's awesome. And I haven't listened to Pat's podcast in quite some time. I'll definitely pick it up and check it out again. Man, Jason, thanks so much for being on the show. Super appreciate your time. Everybody go check out Swenk It.
Thanks for tuning in to Show Me the Nuggets. If you've been enjoying the podcast and find our content helpful, please visit our Apple Podcast page, hit the subscribe button, and leave us a review. Joe and the whole team have been working hard to bring more value to the show. Your feedback will go a long way in helping us make the show better and reach a wider audience.